Chapter 181. That posture, if seen normally, would be extremely comical, but at this moment, no one dared to laugh. This youth, Nan Huiran, may have been aggressive because of his resources and money, but he held reverence in his heart. The moment the gods were mentioned, his heart still trembled. At this moment, he sincerely and earnestly admitted his mistake to the great tree. The moment Nan Huiran finished his kowtow, suddenly, an object drifted down from the sky, landing in front of him. The object was golden, emitting strands of light like gold threads. This was a lotus pedestal. The lotus pedestal was formed as if by gold, though not physically real, yet the numerous lotus holes within flashed with transparent light. Good job, lad. You truly were sincere, Qiye couldn't help but nod in praise. The cinnamon lotus tree has indeed forgiven your fault and rewarded you with a branch of the 6-Tao lotus pod. This is an extraordinary item. If you have the chance in the future, you can refine it into a divine artifact. Hurry and thank the cinnamon lotus tree. You must know, this item is extremely rare. Hearing Qiye's words, the crowd was moved. An item that could be refined into a divine artifact. At this point, even those who didn't know how to appraise treasures knew, upon seeing the golden lotus pedestal, that it was extraordinary. Nan Huiran was startled. He hastily and respectfully kowtowed to the great tree. Finally, he joyfully collected the 6-Tao lotus pod, not daring to be presumptuous in the slightest. At this moment, many cleansing incense ancient sect disciples looked at Nan Huiran with envy, never expecting him to obtain such a divine item. Protector Mo, as his master, was also happy for his disciple, never imagining that this act of sincerity would earn a divine item bestowed by the divine tree. The heavenly mystery in this was predetermined. At this moment, some disciples couldn't help but imitate Nan Huiran's posture, hoping the divine tree would also reward them with a divine item. Don't bother wasting your effort. Qiye shook his head and said, flawless and pure, that is the true nature. Any trace of seeking benefit or efficacy will not work. This lad Huiran has a deep fortune. This kind of fortune cannot be forced. As Qiye said this, the other disciples couldn't help but let out a dry laugh. Although they didn't obtain a divine item, both the disciples and the protectors and hall masters were filled with reverence. At this moment, all the disciples and protectors confirmed that the great tree before them was a divine tree. Qiye ignored these matters and said to Gu Tiesho, Elder Gu, I will go to the east once. You must lead the disciples to guard this place. Remember, you must not leave this place under any circumstances, or it could bring about a disaster that annihilates you. I will be vigilant, Gu Tiesho said solemnly, not daring to be negligent. Qiye took Li Xuangan and Niufan and departed from this sacred land. Along the way, Qiye divided the holy water and lotus ash, giving a portion to Li Xuangan and Niufan. He said, if you encounter the roots of the Pampas demon, you must sever them. If you encounter the Pampas demon flower, immediately stay far away. If you are trapped and cannot fight your way out, use the lotus ash to repel the enemy. If the Pampas demon flower lands on your body or the demon root pierces your body, immediately pour the holy water on yourself, otherwise it will suck your fresh blood dry. Li Xuangan and Niufan carefully collected the holy water and lotus ash, remembering Qiye's words. Not daring to be careless. What are we going to do this time? Li Xuangan carefully put away the holy water and lotus ash, and couldn't help but ask. We'll see how the situation develops. Qiye looked toward the distant eastern region and said, I don't know what the situation is like right now. In short, before things take a turn for the worse, we must collect that ghostly object, otherwise, once it grows again, it will truly be a major disaster. Boom, boom, boom. However, just as Qiye finished speaking, the entire eastern region shook. Then, mud and earth surged toward the sky. Above the eastern lands, within the no man's land, colossal bone spurs suddenly stabbed up from beneath the ground. Each colossal bone spur was tens of thousands of zhang long. Even more terrifyingly, each bone spur was pitch black, and dark energy lingered around them. In an instant, the eastern area, which had previously been clear water, saw threads of dark energy rising. As the threads of dark energy rose, they enveloped the entire no man's land. In a short time, the entire no man's land became a hellish region. Anyone who witnessed such a scene couldn't help but shudder. They felt an ominous premonition in their hearts. Roar! At this moment, a great roar sounded. The heaven-destroying demon ape burst out of its den. Its terrifying aura permeated the entire no man's land. Heaven-destroying demon ape, upon seeing this million-year-old heavenly beast, everyone trembled. Even a figure like the azure profound heavenly sun couldn't help but change his expression. Retreat, however, just as the heaven-destroying demon ape burst out, from another direction, within a deep valley, a long shout echoed, and a lifespan spirit also flew out. My God, a million-year-old lifespan spirit, everyone was terrified and trembling. A million-year-old heavenly beast, a million-year-old lifespan spirit, their auras swept across the entire eastern region like great waves. All the cultivators were scared pale. Countless cultivators with shallow cultivation slumped to the ground. It's over, it's over. At this moment, some cultivators were dazed, their souls scattered with fear. At this moment, everyone wanted to flee, but it was too late. One could even say that facing a million-year-old heavenly beast and a million-year-old lifespan spirit, even a true person could not escape. However, the heaven-destroying demon ape and the million-year-old lifespan spirit, soaring into the sky, fundamentally ignored the cultivators who had entered the no man's land. They both roared wildly and let out long shouts, showing some reluctance. Finally, they abandoned their dwelling and rushed out of the eastern region. One lifespan spirit charged toward the north, and the heaven-destroying demon ape charged toward the west, finally disappearing into the vast wilderness. At this moment, Qiye, who had just set out, couldn't help but narrow his eyes, looking at the sky-propping colossal bone spur in the distance, remaining silent for a long time. What is that? Even Niofan couldn't help but be moved. He had a bad premonition, muttering. It was once a skeleton. Qiye smiled, his smile brilliant as he said, having been dead for millions of years, it still wants to borrow the skeleton to be reborn. What kind of demon creature is this? A 5 million-year-old heavenly beast? Or a 5 million-year-old lifespan spirit? Niofan couldn't help but be moved. Each bone spur was tens of thousands of zhang tall. Just imagining it, how colossal was this demon creature? Qiye said leisurely with a smile. It is neither a heavenly beast nor a lifespan spirit, but it is more terrifying than them. Heavenly beasts and lifespan spirits can still be killed, but this ghostly thing is very difficult to kill, so tenacious that it is unbelievable. As long as it has a single root left alive, it can still survive, plotting for the day it will be reborn. Niofan and Li Xuangan couldn't help but be moved. Such a thing existed in the world, it was truly terrifying to the extreme. Let's go, we'll go take a look. At this moment, Qiye laughed and said, perhaps we can dig out its final hope and see if we can conveniently dig up any good things. When Qiye rode the snail to the eastern region, many cultivators from great sects, powerful countries, sacred lands, and hidden factions in the eastern no man's land exchanged glances. At this moment, many people felt uneasy in their hearts, sensing an ominous premonition. Is this truly the emergence of the treasure of the gods? I feel it is more like the emergence of a demon. A sect master looked at the colossal bone spurs, his face turning pale. This place is ominous. At this moment, the venerable old man beside the azure profound heavenly sun was also moved, and said to the azure profound heavenly sun. The azure profound heavenly sun's eyes flashed fiercely, seemingly capable of seeing into the deepest part of the no man's land. Finally, he slowly said, what if it is ominous? A supremely perilous land must contain a divine artifact. This is exactly what we need. No matter how terrifying the ominousness in the world, does it dare to act recklessly. Under the divine might of our ancestors. The venerable old man felt that his words made sense. Their azure profound ancient kingdom has produced 2 generations of immortal emperors, which was enough to make them look down on the 8 wastelands. This time, they came prepared. Even if they encountered greater danger, they could still retreat safely. The azure profound heavenly Sun did not hesitate. He continued to lead his people toward the deepest part of the no-man's land. Since the heaven-destroying demon ape had fled, they no longer needed to be cautious and could advance quickly, greatly increasing their speed. We will go in too. The azure profound heavenly Sun entered. The sacred heaven Tao was not to be outdone and said in a deep voice. True Person C2, the national master, couldn't help but say worriedly. Young master, I fear there is great danger here. I know that, the sacred heaven Tao said, since we have entered the treasure mountain, we cannot return empty-handed. Moreover, if there truly is a treasure of the gods, it must contain great peril. Where in the world does a divine artifact come easily? If there is a divine king's aura, I need such an item to help me complete my supreme great endeavor. Having said that, his eyes showed a terrifying and extremely determined light. Young master is truly ambitious and brilliant, True Person C2 also agreed. To achieve great things and step onto the path of the immortal emperor, one must have such ambition and such a firm Tao heart. The azure profound heavenly Sun and the sacred heaven Tao led their people into the deepest part of the no-man's land, which made many cultivators of great sects and powerful countries hesitate. Yet they couldn't help but be moved. After all, even juniors like the azure profound heavenly Sun and the sacred heaven Tao went in, they couldn't possibly remain unmoved. Furthermore, the great sects and powerful countries that came here were all formidable. Some great sects and powerful countries even had marquises leading their teams, and even older generation marquises. We will go in too. With the azure profound ancient kingdom and the sacred heaven sect paving the way, what do we have to fear? A sect master said in a deep voice, even if we don't obtain the divine king's aura, obtaining 1 or 2 divine artifacts would make this trip worthwhile. Finally, quite a few great sects and ancient factions followed the azure profound heavenly Sun and the sacred heaven Tao into the deepest part of the no-man's land. Most great sects and powerful countries had not given up on the legendary treasure of the gods. After the azure profound heavenly Sun and the sacred heaven Tao entered, they also rushed into the deepest part of the no-man's land. A small number of lineages and cultivators abandoned the thought of going in. The sudden emergence of colossal bone spurs from the ground, accompanied by lingering dark energy, was chilling and caused unease in people's hearts. Therefore, a small number of sects and lineages gave up on continuing. The knowledgeable old turtle king of Flying Dragon Lake advised their young master. Young master, in this old man's opinion, this place may not be a good one. I fear this place is ominous. Our harvest this trip is already greater than previous times. Why risk such a great danger? Furthermore, the azure profound ancient kingdom and the sacred heaven sect have both gone in. Relying on our Flying Dragon Lake, we wouldn't gain much advantage. Why compete with them? In the end, under the old Turtle King's persuasion, the young master of Flying Dragon Lake gave up on going in, leading the demon kings to retreat to the normal zone. However, the young master of Flying Dragon Lake was still interested in the legendary treasure of the gods. Therefore, after retreating to the normal zone, he had the demon kings raise a heaven mirror, intending to use it to observe the situation in the no-man's land from a distance. Besides a few sects like Flying Dragon Lake that did not enter the no-man's land, the lineage that retreated most thoroughly was the Purple River View. The old Taoist of Purple River View saw the strange anomaly in the deep eastern region, felt it was ominous, and his harvest this trip was already abundant. He was unwilling to take any further risks and left Demon's Back Ridge with his disciples, completely withdrawing from this treasure hunt. The sects that ultimately did not enter the no-man's land were the minority. Most sects still followed the azure profound heavenly Sun and his group into the deepest part of the east. Since there was no longer the terrifying existence of the heaven-destroying demon ape stationed there, all the sects rose into the air, riding their precious artifacts and flying forward, advancing quickly into the deepest part of the east. This significantly increased their speed. The first to reach the deepest part of the east were the azure profound heavenly Sun and the sacred heaven Tao. When they reached the deepest point, they were completely shocked by the scene before them. Before their eyes, white bones covered the ground everywhere. As far as the eye could see, there were countless white bones, even mountains of piled-up white bones. In this mountain of bones, all kinds of skeletons existed: human cultivator skeletons, demon cultivator skeletons, and even skeletons of heavenly beasts and lifespan spirits. There were also many skeletons whose names they couldn't even pronounce. Skeletons were scattered everywhere, some as small as a fist, others as large as a mountain, and some bones were so long they stretched endlessly. The white bones formed mountains. Furthermore, all the creatures before them had died tragically in their lifetimes. Scattered on the ground were quite a few precious artifacts and wondrous weapons, but they had all lost their divinity and turned into scrap metal. Moreover, all the precious artifacts and wondrous weapons were partially shattered. It was clear that the creatures that died here were very powerful when they were alive. Before their deaths, they had all resisted, but in the end, they still died here. If cultivators die, at a certain realm, they can preserve their physical bodies or the strongest part of their bodies. However, all the creatures here turned into white bones. After death, which could only mean one explanation, that all their essence, whether life blood or the essence of heaven and earth, was completely stripped from them while they were alive. Seeing the corpses scattered everywhere before them, countless people shivered. When the azure profound heavenly sun and his group stared blankly at the scene, many cultivators from great sects and powerful countries arrived behind them. Seeing the scene, everyone was astonished and speechless for a long time. At this moment, many people felt a chill down their spines and fear in their hearts. What exactly happened here? Seeing the white bones everywhere, even a sect master couldn't help but pale. This matter was truly too terrifying. We are going in. Just when countless people were terrified, the azure profound heavenly sun remained unmoved. His entire body was shrouded in azure chi, and his eyes were still piercingly sharp. He continued forward with the elders beside him. The sacred heaven Tao was not to be outdone, leading the marquises to continue into the deepest part. At this moment, quite a few sect masters and imperial lords of the great sects and powerful countries were looking at each other. Everyone was shaken by the mountain of bones before them. Having reached this point, there is no reason to retreat. Since so many people have gathered here, it means there truly is a world-shaking item here, an imperial lord said in a deep voice. Having said that, he led his people to follow. Seeing the azure profound heavenly sun and his group enter, many cultivators grew bolder. They gritted their teeth and followed. Having come this far, very few people wanted to retreat. Qiye rode the snail at extreme speed all the way. But he was still the last to reach the deepest part of the east. When Qiye reached the land of white bones scattered everywhere, not only Li Xuangan but even Niufan was shaken. What kind of ghostly place is this? Seeing the mountains of white bones and the bones scattered everywhere, let alone Li Xuangan, even Niufan, who had been to many perilous places, couldn't help but feel a chill, with an ominous premonition in his heart. Li Xuangan saw the scene before her and couldn't help but pale, muttering, "What exactly is this place? It's just a feeding ground. It's still some distance from the true den." Qiye looked at the scattered white bones before them and said with a slight smile, "A feeding ground." Li Xuanyan's expression also changed, saying, "What kind of demon creature is this? Is it still alive?" "It's unlikely to be alive." Niufan meticulously examined the white bones scattered everywhere and said, "All the bones here are countless years old. In my opinion, the vast majority of the bones here predate the age of the emperors." "You are correct," Qiye laughed and said. "To be precise, it was already slain in the ancient Nether era. However, no one dares to say that this ghostly thing can be 100% annihilated. Even if it is killed thousands of times. As long as a small piece of root survives, it still has a certain chance of resurrection. Originally, it should have been impossible for it to resurrect again, even with a sliver of hope. It's just a pity." Speaking up to this point, his expression turned cold. That year, he, as the Dark Crow, came here with Ming Ren, immortal emperor. At the time the 6 Tao lotus flower struck, they joined forces to annihilate this demon creature, even burning the 8 wastelands and refining the earth, wanting to destroy any chance for this demon creature to resurrect. Later, he and Ming Ren, immortal emperor, brought the demons back to the cleansing incense ancient sect, making it the sect's private property. At that time, he and Ming Ren immortal emperor. Fearing that they had left behind a hidden danger for the cleansing incense ancient sect, left behind two extremely powerful preparations to suppress this area. Even if that demon creature had a trace of life, it would never be able to resurrect. Little confused was one of those measures. Unfortunately, someone infiltrated this place and severed the two major measures of Ming Ren immortal emperor, which were also the two major measures of Li Qiye. This incident had ignited Li Qiye's killing intent. As Li Qiye's expression turned cold, Niufen dared not ask further, nor did Li Xuangan. Li Qiye and the others passed through the so-called feeding ground, which was the land of white bones. They then stepped onto a desolate land, which was the deepest part of the east. Looking out, the land was barren for 10,000 miles. Cracks appeared everywhere on the ground, as if this land had been scorched by the most powerful fire in the world, even being burned and cracked. Who struck back then? Truly terrifying, absolutely invincible and heaven-defying. Even if not an immortal emperor, they must have been very, very close to being an immortal emperor. Niufen crawled on the barren land. Although countless eons had passed, he could still feel strands of vibrating aura on this barren land, an invincible aura. Burning the 8 wastelands. Refining the earth, that so-called no grass grows is nothing more than this, Li Qiye said slowly. That year, although the youth Ming Ren was already invincible, he had not yet borne the heavens mandate or been called an immortal emperor. At that time, to completely destroy any chance of life for that demon creature, he burned the 8 wastelands and refined the earth. Countless eons later, this barren land still had no grass growing. Finally, carried by Niufen, Li Qiye, and Li Xuangan reached their destination. It was a massive sinkhole. This place was originally a vast land. But in an extremely ancient era, this place was struck through, forming a huge sinkhole. Looking down, it seemed bottomless. The entire sinkhole was like the wide, bloody maw of a primordial vicious beast, making anyone who looked at it feel a chill. When Li Qiye arrived, he saw everyone standing at the front, looking at the seemingly bottomless sinkhole before them. Li Qiye's arrival drew the attention of the crowd. Many strong experts turned to look. Seeing Li Qiye riding the enormous snail, countless strong experts had varying expressions. Oh, it's really lively. Everyone is here. Seeing so many people, Li Qiye chuckled. Has anyone seen where the treasure of the gods is? In this place, there were not only many inheritances from great sects and powerful countries, but also the azure profound heavenly sun, the sacred heaven Tao, and even Qin Baojiao of the precious pillar sacred sect was here. Seeing Li Qiye, the crowd had varying expressions. The azure profound heavenly sun, whose entire body was shrouded in azure qi, had an expression that was unclear, but his eyes were immensely profound. His gaze fell upon people's bodies, causing their souls to tremble. Everyone was involuntarily wary of him. As for the sacred heaven Tao, who had already clashed with Li Qiye, he wore no good expression. He stared coldly at Li Qiye. And the Marquis of Jinwei, standing behind the sacred heaven Tao, goes without saying. Seeing Li Qiye, he gnashed his teeth with hatred. He had been defeated by Gu Tieshou, lay in bed for a long time, and finally, the Marquis of Zishan replaced his position. Although many people found this arrogant and wild youth before them an eyesore, everyone had heard about Nan Tianhao's tragic death. The rumor that Li Qiye carried an immortal emperor artifact, whether they had seen it firsthand or knew if it was true or false, made them extremely cautious. Therefore, everyone only gave Li Qiye a cold glance. Oh, Miss Chen is here too. As for Li Qiye, he paid no attention to the gazes of others. He chuckled, walking right up to Chen Baojiao to greet her. He said with a calm smile, Miss Chen, this place is extremely perilous, one could say it is a near-death experience. I think, for safety's sake, Miss Chen should come with us. I can guarantee your safety. I am always kind-hearted and never charge a fee for beautiful and charming girls like Miss Chen. Li Qiye's action immediately silenced many people. In front of everyone, he openly and brazenly flirted with the peerless beauty Chen Baojiao without any restraint. This was truly too arrogant. Little brat, stop bragging here. If we truly encounter danger, I fear you won't even have time to defend yourself. Chen Baojiao glared angrily at Li Qiye. Although she spoke this way, she still had a decent impression of Li Qiye. Chen Baojiao was naturally a peerless beauty, her looks capable of toppling nations. The moment she glared, she was captivating and stunningly charming, truly mesmerizing all who looked upon her. Miss Chen, that's asking for trouble. You can't just throw flirtatious glances around. Although I consider myself a gentleman, I might not be able to remain composed when holding you in my arms. Li Qiye said with a leisurely and delighted smile. Li Qiye's words instantly flushed Chen Baojiao's face red with anger and frustration. She let out a cold snort, her expression turning frigid, and said nothing more. Li Qiye's arrogance made the sacred heaven Dao on the other side look extremely grim. He stared coldly at Li Qiye and said sharply, "My wife has me to protect her. She doesn't need the help of others. One must know that the Jade Basin Strong Kingdom and the Sacred Heaven sect had an engagement. Chen Baojiao was destined to marry the Sacred Heaven Dao. Although she had not yet left for his home, she was already his fiancée, a designated title. Now, Li Qiye was publicly flirting with his fiancée. Even a clay statue would show some temper, let alone a favored son of heaven like the Sacred Heaven Dao. Whose wife are you talking about? Chen Baojiao said coldly. She herself was deeply conflicted about this marriage, yet she was bound by circumstances and had no control over it. The Sacred Heaven Dao's eyes flashed fiercely, emanating a terrifying coldness. His aura surged into the sky instantly, and he said in a deep voice, "Baojiao, this is not the time to be willful. Otherwise, I will personally force you to return." "Surnamed Long, who do you think you are?" Chen Baojiao's expression changed drastically, and she said sharply. The Sacred Heaven Dao's aura soared to the heavens. His royal might filled the world. In an instant, he was like a king standing high above. He stared intently at Chen Baojiao and said in a deep voice, "Since you are a married woman, you must possess the virtue and demeanor of a wife." Chen Baojiao suppressed her anger, raising a precious artifact in her hand, and shouted coldly, "Surnamed Long, do you really think Chen Baojiao fears you?" "Alas, Miss Chen. For a matter like this, I am willingly offering my service." Li Qiye said with a calm smile, "You don't want to marry that little brat from the Sacred Heaven sect. That's easy. Just say the word, and I will kill him for you." Li Qiye's words immediately silenced everyone. The Sacred Heaven Dao was clearly older than Li Qiye, yet he called him a little brat. Even stranger was that he was publicly trying to steal his fiancée. It was a wonder people weren't going mad. The Sacred Heaven Dao's face immediately turned green and pale. He took a step forward and said chillingly, "Little brat, you are courting death today." Immediately, his blood energy surged like a sea, pressing down toward Li Qiye. "Just a marquis. What kind of power do you flaunt in front of me?" Li Qiye glanced at him, without moving an inch, and said, "Xuangan, if he wants to attack, go accompany him and kill him for me. I'm in a good mood today and don't want to stain my hands with blood." Li Xuangan took a step forward, blossoming like a sacred lotus. Instantly, immensely sacred light surged around her body, making her look like an immortal descended to the mortal world. Pure and dustless, untouched by all things. Undoubtedly, having been in the demon's back ridge for so long, Li Xuanyan's flawless physique had advanced another level. Li Xuangan unleashing her physique already moved people. Her marquis aura shot straight into the clouds. In an instant, endless kingly might swept the heaven and earth. She was like the ruler of a country, holding supreme authority. Li Xuanyan's marquis aura swept the world, instantly making everyone's expressions change drastically. Such a powerful marquis aura was far stronger than that of the Sacred Heaven Dao. Seeing Li Xuanyan's marquis aura shoot straight into the clouds, completely overwhelming him, the Sacred Heaven Dao's face sank. Li Qiye glanced at him and said calmly, "And you dare to act so arrogant in front of me? Aren't you just a genius? What's so special? Compared to my Xuangan, you are far inferior." My Xuangan, with her sacred fate and imperial physique, isn't even this. Presumptuous. You, who only have a sacred fate, are presumptuous over nothing. Qiye added fuel to the fire, instantly making the sacred heaven Dao's face turn ashen with rage. Although Qiye's words were sharp, they still moved many people. After all, Li Xuanyan's aptitude was evident, sacred fate and imperial physique, even a royal wheel. Such aptitude, placed in any sect or lineage, would make her an unparalleled genius. Such a genius, following a man with a mortal physique, mortal fate, and mortal wheel, this made many people feel injustice for Li Xuangan. Seeing Li Xuangan and the sacred heaven Dao standing ready for battle, with the great war imminent, True Person C2, the national master, hastily stood up to mediate, saying, Fairy Li, why must everyone cross swords? The treasure of the gods is right before us. Everyone should cooperate and join hands to obtain the treasure. To fight to the death before even seeing the treasure. Wouldn't that make everyone laugh at us? Taking one step back, the world is wide. Do you all agree? True Person C2 was an old fox, having lived for so many years. In his view, one Li Xuangan was already enough to cause concern. Furthermore, there were rumors that Qiye carried an immortal emperor artifact. Whether this was true or false, he did not want them to fight to the death before even seeing the treasure. That would be unfavorable. True Person C2 persuaded the sacred heaven Dao. Li Xuangan, seeing that the fight wouldn't commence, also retreated to Qiye's side. At this moment, everyone present had different expressions, some envious, some jealous, some disdainful, and some regretful. The princess of the ancient Ox-strong kingdom. The successor of the 9 holy demon gate, with the aptitude of sacred fate, imperial physique, and royal wheel, and a peerless, nation-toppling beauty. A favorite daughter of heaven like Li Xuangan, no matter which sect or strong kingdom she was in, she would have a limitless future, her great Tao like a song. Yet today, she was married to a disciple of the declining cleansing incense ancient sect. Even worse, he was a disciple with shallow cultivation, mortal fate, mortal physique, and mortal wheel. This was truly like a beautiful flower stuck in a pile of cow dung. In the eyes of many, Li Xuangan was debasing herself, destroying her own future. Li Xuangan could be called the peerless beauty of the great central region, the goddess in the minds of countless young generations. Countless people admired her, countless people were infatuated with her, and countless pursued her. Yet now, she was married to a good-for-nothing. This caused countless geniuses to secretly mourn and countless talents to be red-eyed with jealousy. Let's go, finally, the sacred heaven Dao, seething with rage, said coldly. Having said that, he led the marquises and jumped into the sinkhole before them, instantly vanishing into the darkness. Go, the sacred heaven Dao took the lead. The azure profound heavenly sun, who had also come for the divine king's aura, shouted softly, leading his people to jump in as well. In fact, the people here had long been observing the sinkhole before them. The sacred heaven Dao and the azure profound heavenly sun had even used their heavenly eyes to observe the situation inside the sinkhole. They already had some understanding of the situation below. Hurry, let's quickly descend. I heard the treasure of the gods is right below. The sacred heaven sect and the azure profound ancient kingdom entering made the other great sects and powerful countries unable to endure any longer. They all jumped down one after another. In an instant, cultivators from the various great sects and powerful countries jumped down like dumplings into a pot. In no time, about 70 to 80% of the sects had jumped down. Li Qiye narrowed his eyes, looking at Chen Baojiao, who had not yet left. He said with a relaxed and comfortable smile, Miss Chen, how about we talk? What is there for us to talk about? Chen Baojiao looked coldly at Li Qiye, annoyed. At this moment, in her eyes, Li Qiye was no different from a pervert. Miss Chen, your misunderstanding is quite significant, Li Qiye said calmly. Although I do intend to take you, Miss Chen, it is not just for your beauty. It is because I need a maidservant by my side, and I have reserved a position for Miss Chen. You, Chen Baojiao's face immediately turned red. She glared furiously at Li Qiye. She was enraged. She was, after all, from the precious pillar sacred sect. To offer her up as a maidservant was truly too humiliating. Little man, if you say that one more time, I will tear your mouth apart. Finally, Chen Baojiao said with bitter hatred. Qiye did not care in the slightest. He remained unhurried and slowly said, "Staying by my side is your honor. It is so for you, and it is so for your Chen family." Having said that, he formed a hand seal and slowly tucked it into his chest. Chen Baojiao was already furious, her beautiful eyes spitting flames of anger. She wanted to rush over and tear Qiye's mouth apart, but the moment she saw Qiye's hand seal, she was immediately shaken. She looked at Qiye in disbelief. You, what is that?" Chen Baojiao's charming and captivating eyes now looked at Qiye with fear. "What do you think, Miss Chen?" Qiye slowly finished the hand seal, tucking it into his chest, and said in a relaxed and easy manner. This time, Chen Baojiao saw the hand seal clearly. There was absolutely no mistake. After she clearly saw the hand seal, her heart was deeply shaken. This was an extremely confidential hand seal of her Chen family. An outsider could not possibly know this hand seal. "How about we talk?" Qiye chuckled and said to Chen Baojiao. Chen Baojiao glanced at the old man driving the carriage for her. Finally, she nodded and said, "All right." Seeing this hand seal of Qiye truly shook her, because an outsider could not possibly know this hand seal. Qiye glanced at the seemingly bottomless sinkhole, smiled, and was in no hurry. Then, he turned and left. Qiye led Chen Baojiao to a safe, secluded spot and stopped. He looked at the carriage-driving old man who had followed Chen Baojiao closely and said, "How about I have a private conversation with Miss Chen for a moment?" The carriage-driving old man looked at Chen Baojiao. Chen Baojiao nodded lightly and said, "Elder sure, don't worry, I'm fine. You should rest first." The old man said nothing and silently retreated. Without Qiye's command, Li Xuangan and Niufan also retreated. "Good, now you can speak." At this moment, Chen Baojiao looked at Qiye. Qiye, knowing this hand seal, truly shocked her. Qiye crooked his finger and said with a chuckle, "Come here, I'll tell you a secret." Seeing Qiye being so mysterious, Chen Baojiao's curiosity was piqued. She couldn't help but lean her head closer. Chen Baojiao was a stunning beauty capable of toppling nations, a seductive beauty that could make people's souls tremble. Having such a peerless beauty so close, especially her full and shapely breasts subtly pressing against his chest, truly made one feel tempted to commit a sin. Qiye only smiled. He leaned close to Chen Baojiao's ear. With an indescribable rhythm, he gently blew a breath into her ear. The sound seemed to be set to a certain rhythm, like a seductive temptation. He gently whispered, "Do you know what the rarest physique in the world is?" Right after saying that, with an unbelievable rhythm, he lightly bit her earlobe. "Ah!" Chen Baojiao immediately shrieked as if a cat had its tail stepped on, instantly jumping far away. In that fleeting moment, her jade body felt a burning heat, and in that instant, it was as if a spring fountain was erupting. This kind of illusion directly struck her senses. You little devil, are you itching for a beating?" At this moment, Chen Baojiao's face was flushed red like the evening glow. She shouted at Qiye with hatred. Chen Baojiao's posture at this moment was soul-stirring. Anyone who saw her peerless, charming grace would find their mind unable to keep calm. Indeed, it is this kind of physique, the Chen family's inheritance. Qiye appreciated Chen Baojiao, composed, speaking with a smile. Finally, at this moment, Chen Baojiao calmed her mind. She stared coldly at Qiye, saying in a chilly voice, "Little devil, you had better give me an explanation, otherwise, I will never forgive you." Against Chen Baojiao's outburst, Qiye was unperturbed, smiling as he said, "Based on your situation, the fact that you can reach the strength of a hero means you put in 10 times the effort of others. Let me guess, you must be unreconciled. In terms of talent, you are not bad, but your cultivation, time and again, failed to progress. You are very conflicted about this kind of thing, because you don't want others to call you a big-chested vase with no brain. That's why you diligently cultivate, madly cultivate. For a girl to cultivate so hard, it is indeed not easy. Although your strength has reached the hero realm, you are unreconciled, because your efforts go far beyond this. Li Qiye's words immediately made Qin Baojiao's expression change. Her heart was shocked. This was truly unbelievable. Li Qiye seemed to have seen right through her. You, who did you hear this from? Chen Baojiao was alarmed, shouting coldly. You, did you send someone to investigate me? Li Qiye smiled, shaking his head and saying. Investigate you? Where did you get that idea? I am neither your pursuer nor your admirer. Why would I want to investigate you? The reason I know is very simple, guessing. Li Qiye looked at Qin Baojiao, who was in doubt and uncertainty, and said. Let me guess again. When you cultivated your life art, problems arose. Your chest was swollen and sore, and the area below was tightly sealed, with a sensation of a jade spring gushing out, disturbing your mind. Moreover, your blood energy stagnated, and your true destiny's inhalation and exhalation of heaven and earth vital qi was blocked. You little pervert. As soon as Li Qiye said this, Chen Baojiao immediately jumped far away, looking at Li Qiye in fear, subconsciously covering her chest, as if Li Qiye had seen her naked. Chen Baojiao's look, like a frightened little cat, made Li Qiye unable to help but chuckle. He shook his head and said, Why are you nervous? I didn't peek at you. Moreover, do you think anyone else knows about this kind of thing you yourself feel? Chen Baojiao couldn't help but look at Li Qiye in horror, her heart still unsettled. If what Li Qiye said before could have been discovered through investigation of her Chen family, what Li Qiye had just said could not have been heard from anyone else. Cultivation is an inherently private matter. And a matter like hers was even more personal. She fundamentally could not tell outsiders, and it was difficult to speak even to the most intimate people. You, how do you know? Looking at Li Qiye, Chen Baojiao couldn't help but feel uneasy. Whenever Li Qiye's gaze fell on her, she always felt she had no secrets to speak of. Li Qiye shook his head and said, That's not important. What's important is that you possess the hegemon immortal spring physique. Because of this innate physique, you have this situation. You don't have the corresponding physique art. Therefore, when you cultivate, your blood energy stagnates, and your true destiny is blocked. Although your talent is not bad, no matter how hard you try, if you don't cultivate a physique art suitable for you, you will forever be unable to step into the great sage realm, or even the saint emperor realm. Hegemon immortal spring physique. Chen Baojiao muttered the name, but she had never heard of this type of physique. Li Qiye smiled and said, It's not strange that you haven't heard of this physique. Your Chen family ancestor wouldn't tell her descendants, because this kind of physique is basically impossible to reappear. The probability of it appearing is even smaller than an immortal physique. You, who are you? At this moment, Chen Baojiao stared at Li Qiye with a heart pounding in disbelief. Me. The chief disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Li Qiye. Li Qiye smiled, sat down on a rock, and patted the side, saying, Come and sit down. Tell me about your Chen family. Chen Baojiao looked at Li Qiye with doubt and uncertainty. Looking at the young man before her, who was even younger than herself, this young man looked harmless to animals, yet he made her terrified. This young man was so terrifying that one could not see through him at all. Finally, Chen Baojiao slowly walked over and sat down next to Li Qiye, but not too close, watching him warily, and said coldly, What do you want to talk about? Seeing Chen Baojiao guarding against him as if he were a thief, Li Qiye couldn't help but chuckle. Then he said leisurely, No need to be so nervous. We're just having a family chat. Speaking of this, he looked at Chen Baojiao and asked, How is your Chen family doing now in the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect? Do you still control the authority of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation? Control the Jade Purity Mighty Nation. Chen Baojiao couldn't help but feel a bitter taste, saying, "Now, the authority of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation is administered by the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. My Chen family is just a district king of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, controlling an area of no more than 10,000 miles. One must know that her Chen family's ancestor was the founding father of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. The Jade Purity Mighty Nation was even their Chen family's property. But sadly, her Chen family has declined for a long time. As the lineage of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect's founder, they could now only be a district king. Chen Baojiao might be a princess, but that was a later conferral. Because she had utilization value, Sacred Heaven Taoist wanted to marry her, and the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect wanted to form a marriage alliance with the Sacred Heaven Sect. For the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect, the ancestor of the Sacred Heaven Sect was a powerful backing. It was precisely because of this that she, who was originally a district princess, was conferred the title of princess, simply to be worthy of Sacred Heaven Taoist. For the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect and the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, she was merely a tool for a marriage alliance. She was extremely opposed and deeply conflicted about this marriage. She fundamentally did not want to marry Sacred Heaven Taoist. However, growing up in the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect, living in the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, within this powerful sect and lineage, she was powerless in such matters. Even her parents, who wanted to protect her, couldn't make the decision for her. I can only say that your ancestor was too honest. Qiye gently shook his head and said, "It's a pity for your ancestors' painstaking effort. In the end, they lost even the dowry. The only thing worth celebrating is that her Chen family lineage has at least been passed down. Until now." "What do you mean by that?" Hearing Qiye's words, Chen Baojiao's expression moved slightly. She stared at Qiye and asked. Qiye chuckled and said, "Do you think your Chen family follows the surname of your ancestor or your ancestress?" "Of course, my ancestor. My ancestor's surname is Chen," Chen Baojiao said angrily. "This is clearly written in the clan records." "This is where you're wrong." Qiye smiled, shaking his head and saying, "To be precise, your ancestor also followed the surname of your ancestress. Back then, your ancestor was not surnamed Chen. Although he came from a humble background, he was a very good person. His only flaw was being too loyal and honest. In those years, your Chen family ancestress was the imperial family of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation. Your ancestress was originally the princess of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, and later became the empress of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation. Later, your ancestress married your ancestor. Your ancestor truly loved the Chen family ancestress, and eventually adopted the Chen family surname, continuing your Chen family's bloodline. The vast territory of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation became the dowry." Hearing Qiye say this, Chen Baojiao's heart trembled. Regarding the surname, she had always thought it followed her ancestor's surname. However, concerning the legends of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, she had indeed heard some rumors. In some rumors, it was indeed mentioned that the Jade Purity Mighty Nation belonged to her ancestress. However, the lineage and origin of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, under the deliberate censorship and destruction by the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect's past administrators, few people in later generations knew that the Jade Purity Mighty Nation originated from the Chen family. More people believed that the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect's founder unified the territory after establishing the sect. Later, your ancestor established the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. Qiye said. This man, well, everything was good, but he was too honest. He adopted the policy of the wise ruling the power in the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. Sadly, in the end, your Chen family lost the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect and also lost the Jade Purity Mighty Nation. Speaking of this, Qiye couldn't help but sigh softly. The founder of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect and the princess of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation were already very distant memories. In that distant era, as the Dark Crow, he had met the young founder of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. Seeing that this young man was good, he guided him a little. However, at that time, he did not train this boy to become an immortal emperor. He also thought highly of the princess of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation at the time. She even had the talent to become an immortal emperor. But sadly, she never had any ambition. All she wanted was to be a virtuous wife and kind mother. Later, as the Dark Crow, he made her swear an oath and taught her the Hegemon Immortal Spring Physique art. Although she was a good seed. Unfortunately, her ambition was not in the immortal emperor path. In the end, Qiye could only give up on training her. Afterward, as the Dark Crow, he even acted as a matchmaker for the two of them. It just so happened that the two were also attracted to each other. He served as a witness, promoting this couple. At that time, he intended to train an immortal emperor. Since the princess of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation's ambition was not there, he could only give up and leave. Since then, he rarely paid attention to the Jade Purity Mighty Nation. Even so, having received Qiye's guidance, the founder of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect indeed did not disgrace Qiye. He achieved the status of one of the strongest great sages of that era, practically unbeatable, and founded the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect. In that era, the world knew that the founder of the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect had achieved great completion of the Saint Physique, and was arguably the strongest person of that era. In reality, what the world didn't know was that the Empress of the Jade Purity Mighty Nation, who stayed behind the scenes as a virtuous wife and kind mother, was even stronger than her husband. She was the great completion of the Hegemon Immortal Spring Physique. If she had made a move, she would absolutely have suppressed the strongest great sage of the time. Qiye did not force the affectionate couple, nor did he drag them into the cruel heavenly mandate war. He could only bless them. Afterward, he traveled the 9 heavens and 10 lands, seeking a suitable seed to train as the next immortal emperor. How do you know all these things? Chen Baojiao looked at Qiye in disbelief. This was simply impossible. Even as a descendant of the Chen family, as a direct lineage child of the Chen family, she did not know these secret histories. Yet, a 15 or 16-year-old youth knew the secret histories of their Chen family. This was simply inconceivable. This is nothing. To me, there are not too many secrets in the world. Qiye said with a smile, but in his words, there was absolute confidence. Chen Baojiao sat there, speechless for a long time. After a while, she couldn't help but look at Qiye, unable to resist asking. Can my problem be solved? Yes. Qiye nodded and said. As long as you cultivate the Hegemon Immortal Spring Physique art. This is not simply about solving your problem. In the future, you will have the opportunity to sweep across the 8 desolates and step onto the peak. You have this physique art. Chen Baojiao stared at Qiye in disbelief, unable to resist asking in a rush. Qiye said leisurely. The Hegemon Immortal Spring Physique is rare across the 9 heavens and 10 lands, and throughout history. I'm afraid only I possess this physique art. Besides me, there is no second person. At this moment, Chen Baojiao's chest couldn't help but heave. Her full, abundant twin peaks surged with her chest's movement, creating intense waves, utterly alluring and magnificent. Qiye looked at her, smiling as he said. Since you are unwilling to marry Sacred Heaven Taoist, everything is easy to handle. Come with me. As for the Sacred Heaven sect and the Precious Pillar Sacred sect, I'll settle it for you. Marry you. Chen Baojiao's seductive, charming eyes widened, glaring at Qiye. No. Qiye smiled, shaking his head and said. How about being my maidservant? I just happen to be short one capable assistant. You. Chen Baojiao's face instantly flushed red. She glared at Qiye, unable to stop herself from grinding her teeth. She stared at Qiye with hatred, shouting in anger. Little devil, are you deliberately insulting me? If you talk nonsense again, I'll rip your stinking mouth off. Qiye glanced at her, still calm and composed, saying, Beauty, you are indeed nation-toppling and city-ruining, but in my eyes, that's just a skin bag, a red powder skeleton. Sacred Heaven Taoist likes it, and everyone likes you. But that doesn't mean I will value you. In my eyes, it's because of the Hegemon Immortal Spring Physique. Although you are a peerless beauty. But in front of me, there's no need to think too highly of yourself. Whether it's a genius or a peerless beauty, if they cannot be used by me, then they are insufficient for the great Tao. In my eyes, they are no different from ordinary people. If they block my path, so what if they're a genius, and so what if they're a peerless beauty? They will all be killed without mercy. Qiye slowly uttered these chilling words, his tone calm and unremarkable, yet within his voice was overwhelming dominance, contempt for the 9 heavens and 10 lands, and an aura of iron-blooded killing. By the end of his words, Chen Baojiao could even smell the scent of blood. She had heard about Qiye's recent actions, burying and killing over 10,000 powerful figures, slaughtering Nan Tianhao. He was iron-blooded and ruthless. Definitely not a charitable person. After finishing his words, Qiye said leisurely, "How do you compare yourself to Xuangan? She has the saint mandate, emperor physique, and emperor wheel. She's the princess of the ancient Ox mighty nation, and the successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Do you think she's inferior to you? She is still my maidservant. What do you think? Follow by my side, step onto the peak, and in the future, you will understand the choice within." Chen Baojiao was shaken all at once. She had thought Qiye was so arrogant and conceited because he had married Li Xuangan. But Li Xuanyan's identity by his side was that of a maidservant. Considering Li Xuanyan's obedience to his every word, his words were not mere crazy talk. Chen Baojiao's heart felt pressure. Li Xuangan was the recognized genius of the Great Central Territory. In her few times making a move, she was clearly stronger than Sacred Heaven Taoist. Yet, she was willing to stay by Qiye's side as a maidservant. Compared to this, Chen Baojiao had nothing to be arrogant about. Chen Baojiao sat there instantly. She had always been like a star, surrounded by the moon, dazzling wherever she went. Now, she was mentally crushed. Even if she wanted to be arrogant, she couldn't manage it. Think about it carefully. Finally, Qiye glanced at her and said, "Of course, I won't force you. If you figure it out, you can come find me anytime. Remember, don't be too late. Missing the opportunity to cultivate is destroying your own future. Besides, someone will eventually stand by my side to assist me. You won't have a place." Finally, Chen Baojiao and the coachman who followed her left first. Only then did Li Xuangan and Niu Fun walk over. Qiye had talked with Chen Baojiao for so long, and Li Xuangan didn't know what they talked about, but Li Xuangan didn't ask. After Chen Baojiao left, Li Xuangan saw Qiye smiling as he watched her depart. Li Xuangan looked at Qiye and asked, "What do you see in her?" Of course, Li Xuangan didn't think Qiye was interested in Chen Baojiao's beauty. If he really were interested in her beauty, given his overbearing personality, he would simply take her directly. Perhaps he would have long since destroyed Sacred Heaven Taoist and then stolen his fiancée. Physique. Qiye comfortably stretched, saying with a leisurely smile, "Saint Physique." Li Xuanyan's heart was shaken, but she also felt it was impossible. If Chen Baojiao were a Saint Physique, many people would have known long ago. If she truly were a Saint Physique, the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect probably wouldn't be willing to marry her off to Sacred Heaven Taoist. One must know that the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect possessed a large number of physique arts, including the Saint Physique art. If the Precious Pillar Sacred Sect nurtured a disciple to great completion of the Saint Physique, that would mean invincibility, unless the great completion of an immortal physique appeared. No, an acquired physique. Qiye shook his head and said, "Hegemon immortal spring physique. Hegemon immortal spring physique." Li Xuangan was stung for a moment. She had never heard of such a physique. She said, "An acquired physique." Acquired physiques could be said to be worthless. Many great sects and powerful nations had disciples with acquired physiques. Innate physiques were much better. Acquired physiques were completely without much value. Don't underestimate this physique. Qiye said. If she can achieve the great completion of this physique, even if you achieve the great completion of the immortal physique, it will still be a challenge for you. Throughout the ages, this physique has only appeared 3 times. She is the third. Li Xuanyan's heart trembled upon hearing this. Great completion of the immortal physique, how terrifying was that? There was a legend that throughout the ages, someone had once achieved the great completion of the immortal physique. Although they did not achieve the immortal emperor status, they held the qualification to challenge an immortal emperor. Great completion of the immortal physique meant invincibility. Even if an immortal emperor attacked. Even if they couldn't defeat the immortal emperor, they could probably withstand the immortal emperor's assaults. If she achieved the great completion of the immortal physique, it was unimaginable. Yet, an acquired physique achieving great completion could challenge an immortal physique. This was truly inconceivable. Such a physique exists in the world. Li Xuangan murmured. Her joining you is the best thing. In the future, if you two join forces, two great completion physiques, that would truly be invincible in the world. He, attacking the buried ground. Treading the old earth, what is impossible? Li Qiye's eyes narrowed. Li Xuangan was also moved. Great completion of the immortal physique, plus another great completion physique. How terrifying was that? Throughout the ages, she had never heard of two great physiques emerging from the same power. But, she is married to Sacred Heaven Taoist. Li Xuangan couldn't help but say with concern for Li Qiye. You are stealing a person from the Sacred Heaven sect, and also stealing a person from the Precious Pillar Sacred sect. And so what? As long as she is willing to stay as my maidservant, if the Sacred Heaven sect dares to block my path, I'll destroy them. Li Qiye said with a smile. His ambition and determination were something no one could stop. One day, he would lead his invincible army to kill back to the immortal demon cave. One day, he would trample and destroy the immortal demon cave. When Li Qiye returned to the sinkhole with Li Xuangan, he saw that Qin Baojiao was also there. At this moment, the lineages that hadn't descended were few and far between. The vast majority of cultivator sects had followed the Qingxian ancient kingdom. And the Sacred Heaven sect in. Li Qiye smiled at Qin Baojiao and said, how is it, hesitating? After speaking, he rode the snail and charged down. Qin Baojiao couldn't help but snort softly. And rode her carriage downwards. When they landed inside the bottomless sinkhole, they found that the space below was far larger than the entrance above, like a ceramic jar. Moreover, underground there were countless intertwining caves, crisscrossing like a beehive. Entering them, one might easily get lost. Standing inside this underground cavern, Li Xuangan couldn't help but be moved. She looked at Li Qiye and said, could it be that a great tree once grew here? Is this where the trunk sprouted? The sinkhole before them indeed looked like a place where a great tree had grown. The countless underground caves were likely where the roots had been planted. That's right, the puma tree. It was born in an extremely ancient era, taking root within this small world. It was once an existence that could rival the gods. Li Qiye nodded and said, Puma tree. Hearing this name, Niufen couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine, saying in dismay, I've heard legends about this thing. The legend says this ghostly thing is like a demon, and is even immortal. Anyone who encounters it is only left with death, becoming its delicacy. However, throughout the ages, I have never heard of anyone who has ever seen a puma tree. Are there truly gods? Chen Baojiao, who was listening nearby, couldn't help but ask about the gods. Are there truly gods in the world? Li Qiye glanced at her and said, Then tell me, what did you come here for? The treasure of the gods, or the aura of the God King? Questioned by Li Qiye. Like this, Chen Baojiao looked up at Li Qiye. After a moment, she said in a deep voice, Legend says that the most ancient and primal laws of the gods can break through all obstacles and return to the origin. You came for the laws of the gods. Li Qiye understood. Chen Baojiao was restricted by her physique. She wanted to break through her predicament. Therefore, hearing that there was a treasure of the gods here, she came for the laws of the gods. Li Qiye smiled, shaking his head and said, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. There are no so-called laws of the gods here. I'm not sure if there are gods in the world, but at least there are no laws of the gods here. Humph, you're here for the first time. How do you know there's no treasure of the gods here? Or if there are laws of the gods? You're just guessing. Chen Baojiao snorted coldly. She was naturally unwilling to give up just like that. After speaking, she led the old man towards the other side. You're not keeping her? Seeing Li Qiye calm and composed, Li Xuangan couldn't help but look at him and say, "It seems to me she is also willing to follow you. She is haughty and arrogant. Letting her suffer a little is no big deal." Li Qiye was in no hurry, speaking slowly. Niufen said, "The old man driving her carriage is not simple. I'm afraid he is a true person. Even if she suffers, there won't be much danger. Let's go, let's look for our target." Li Qiye distinguished the direction briefly. Finally, he headed towards another side, entering another cave. When Li Qiye entered the cave, inside the countless underground caverns, many cultivators were extremely excited. They all wished they could search all the caves and dig up all the treasures. The great sects, powerful nations, ancient lineages, and secret lands that entered the underground numbered in the hundreds, with over 10,000 cultivators. When Qingxian Heavenly Sovereign and Sacred Heaven Taoist led their respective people into the caves, some ancient lineages and secret sects followed behind them, and some great sects and powerful nations went their own way. However, whether the cultivators followed Qingxian Heavenly Sovereign and Sacred Heaven Taoist or went separately, they all had astonishing results. The caves were intricate, but the vast underground world was truly a treasure trove. Here, not only did rare strange herbs and exotic trees grow, but there were also precious gold and divine stones, even the extremely rare True Destiny divine stones. The Yin River Spring. A great sect master, leading his disciples, saw a precious spring and said with extreme excitement, "Quick, quick, take all the spring water for me." The Yin River Spring, this is excellent water for nurturing Yin fish. Which tree? A demon king couldn't believe his eyes, looking at the ancient tree only 3 feet tall before him. He was deeply moved and uncontrollably excited, saying, "The witch tree, this is the precious treasure of my demon lineage." After speaking, he immediately started to dig up this world-shaking treasure. Ha ha. 6 pattern precious gold. We're rich this time. Some cultivators also dug up extremely rare sacred bronze, feeling so excited that they couldn't help but jump up. Bone-dissolving fish. Someone caught a strange fish inside the underground Yin River. Where are you running? This drilling wind mouse was discovered by us first. Underground, there were many rare treasures and exotic artifacts. For a time, countless cultivators were extremely excited. They all wished they could dig up this place entirely. This place was originally a treasured land, once occupied by the Puma tree. The treasures here had been swept clean before. However, after 10 million years, this treasured land had once again conceived quite a few strange herbs, exotic trees, precious gold, and divine stones. However, just as all the cultivators were immersed in the joy of their bountiful harvest, underground, in the mud, tree roots emerged silently. Some were as thick as an arm, others as thin as a whisker. The tips of the roots silently burrowed out from underground, like spiritual snakes, making them difficult to detect. Moreover, these emerging roots were like venomous snakes hiding in the dark, moving at any moment. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable scream rang out. An arm-thick root suddenly shot out and instantly pierced the chest of a cultivator. Junior. Brother. The sudden mutation shocked his fellow sect members. Buffed. However, this root instantly sucked the essence of the cultivator dry. Like a spiritual snake, it burrowed back underground, then instantly shot out on the other side, stabbing towards another cultivator. Open. The cultivator was shocked, shouting loudly. His divine saber slashed down, cutting towards the root. The saber severed the root, but the severed root still shot through his chest like an angry arrow. Ugh! The cultivator didn't dare to believe this scene even as he was dying. When the root entered his chest, it was like a leech, sucking his blood dry, and then instantly burrowing back underground. What kind of monster is this? Seeing such a scene, everyone couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. Hiss, hiss, hiss. In an instant, roots shot out from underground, attacking the other cultivators. Evil entity. Finally, a King Lord took action. The King Lord's aura was like a mad wave. The divine radiance suppressed and annihilated everything. In a flash, it slaughtered one root after another. However, these roots were more terrifying than they imagined. Even if they were severed, they could still escape, quickly burrowing underground. Only by crushing them could they be truly killed. Ah! For a time, in the intricate caves, screams of misery echoed incessantly. Cultivators fell victim one after another. Many cultivators were pierced by the roots and had their blood sucked dry. Boom! At this moment, the powerful figures took action, especially the King Lords. They were overbearing and unrivaled, suppressing and annihilating the attacking roots again and again. The strongest was still Qiye, Heavenly Sovereign. His azure qi surged, sweeping across the area he passed. Wherever the azure qi swept, no matter how thick the roots were, they retreated in concession. Qiye Emperor Qi. Seeing such powerful qi, many cultivators who followed behind were also moved. Following closely behind, the Qiye ancient kingdom became even safer, with Qiye Heavenly Sovereign paving the way. Open. Sacred Heaven Taoist was not weak either. He dominated the ground in the cave, suppressing and annihilating the attacking roots again and again. Kill. With a loud shout. In the vast underground, the sounds of slaughter, miserable screams, and cheers of finding treasure mixed together. It could be said that the deeper the cave, the more roots attacked. And the more cultivators fell victim. However, many great sects and powerful nations still rushed to the depths. For them, the strange herbs, exotic trees, precious gold, and divine stones here were simply too tempting. Furthermore, they hadn't even seen the treasure of the gods. It was unlikely anyone would easily give up. The fact that so many strange herbs, exotic trees, precious gold, and divine stones were unearthed under this ground made all the cultivators even more convinced that the legendary treasure of the gods was here. Qiye identified the direction and proceeded. Along the way, just like the other sects, he encountered root attacks. However, for Qiye, that was not a problem. Buffed. Suddenly, an arm-thick root suddenly shot out from the mud, stabbing towards Qiye with the speed of lightning. The root's speed was fast, but Qiye's speed was even faster. He instantly grabbed the attacking root, quickly wrapping it around his hand. What was terrifying was that the roots, when grasped, actually grew fine rootlets, which stabbed towards Qiye's skin like needles, trying to pierce into his body. His suppressing prison god physique manifested, making him incredibly solid. The roots simply could not pierce through. Qiye let out a cold laugh, pulling hard. His one-handed pull was terrifyingly strong. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, this long root was torn off alive. The root was very, very long. Each time Qiye pulled it down, it coiled around him like a spiritual snake, instantly wrapping Qiye 3 layers deep in dense coils. Scram. Qiye's body lightly shook. The suppressing prison god physique weighed hundreds of millions of tons. Just a slight tremor of this weight was enough to crush everything. The roots wrapped around his body were instantly cut into countless segments. These broken segments still twisted, trying to burrow into the ground. With Qiye's life palace manifesting, the Kunpeng soared out. The Kunpeng opened its mouth, like a giant whale drinking the sea, easily swallowing all the segments. The emperor might of the Kunpeng 6 transformations cultivation method easily crushed all the segments. Compared to Qiye, Li Xuangan was simply a fairy descending to the mortal world. Her flawless physique manifested, like a sacred lotus, blooming. Divine, holy light continuously exhaled and inhaled. Even though the roots wanted to stab towards Li Xuangan, they could not get close. In fact, the aura on Li Xuangan's body made them wary. Just at this moment, Li Xuangan struck with a single sword. The king's aura was airborne. The sword light swept across, and every root was severed. The most simple and direct was still no. Fun. He hid inside his giant shell. His giant shell had a great history and was incredibly hard. The roots simply could not pierce through. Niofan directly rolled towards the deeper part of the cave, like a giant rock, directly crushing the roots as he rolled over them, grinding them into pieces. Hiss, hiss, hiss. As Qiye went deeper, the roots attacking them became more and more numerous. The roots attacking them became thicker and thicker, and their momentum grew fiercely. Later, roots appeared that were actually like cast iron and bronze, which even treasures couldn't easily sever. This was truly inconceivable. What is this? Li Xuangan was also moved. At this moment, these cast iron and bronze-like roots also began to attack her. The 10,000-year-old roots of the puma tree. We are getting close to its habitat, so they are attacking desperately. Li Qiye said. Use the lotus ash. Don't get entangled with them. As long as we find its main root, the other roots won't amount to much. After speaking, Li Qiye scattered the lotus ash. Li Xuangan and Niofan also scattered the lotus ash. Indeed. As soon as the lotus ash appeared, the attacking old roots immediately retreated, not daring to approach. They were extremely wary of the lotus ash. In an instant, the cave behind Li Qiye's group was densely packed with thick old roots. These old roots were like coldly staring venomous snakes, giving people the chills. So magical. Li Xuangan couldn't believe it. This ordinary lotus ash was so magical that it made the old roots of the puma tree not dare to approach. The 6-Dao lotus. This is the bane of the puma tree. These are the genuine ancient lotus ashes. Even the puma tree's main root wouldn't dare to get close. These things are at most no more than 30,000 years old. Of course, they can't compete with this. If they get stained with lotus ash, it's their dead end. After speaking, Li Qiye grasped a handful of lotus ash and shot it out like an arrow. Seeing the lotus ash flying towards them, all the old roots instantly retreated, quickly pulling back. However, one old root was still hit by the lotus ash. With a "puft," the old root, like a snake hit in its 7 inches, vulnerable spot, writhed on the ground. In an instant, the old root withered and died tragically, like a snake dried up and killed by the sun. Thank you for watching. If you found the story interesting and meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.